Today I'm going to be talking about traits of toxic parents. So I'm going to get into it. I've actually listed some pre-recorded wise, and then I'm literally going to talk about them and go through them. And then if there is any other questions, if people want to interact with me at the end, then I'll do that as well. So if you follow me, if anybody that follows me will know that all of my content is about toxic parents, okay? Or most of it. And then about how we heal as well. And how we heal from family dysfunction and what it's like. Now, a lot of people often ask me why I talk about toxic parents and why I describe them as toxic parents. Anybody that's had a toxic parent in the way that I'm talking about will know exactly what I'm talking about when I say toxic. But I've listed 10 of the most common traits and I'm going to go through them. And I'm happy for people to interact in the chat if they want to interact, and we'll do it as we go. And I'll make sure that I'm marking them off when you go. Look, the first one I'm going to start with here is the toxic parent will the toxic parent will almost act as if they are competing against you. Well, they are competing against you, right? So they are going to be like frightfully jealous normally of you and any kind of achievement that you have. So particularly like if it's the parent, so if you're a girl and it's your mum, and if you're a dad and if you're a boy and it's your dad, they're going to particularly become jealous when you start moving into your adulthood. So when you hit those teen years, that's when they are really going to put you down. Toxic mothers will put down girls incredibly about their looks. They'll talk about their weight, and they actually won't want you to be successful in anything that you do. So they're actually going to put you down. They're going to try and put you back in a box and make sure that you don't come out of that box, because if you do, then it makes them not feel very good about themselves. You have to remember that ultimately these toxic parents are, they see themselves as the center of the universe. And so that jealousy will start, it'll be there the whole time, but it'll start strongly in your teenage years, and then it will progress actually into your adulthood. And they're always going to put you down. They're always going to put down your achievements, yeah? They'll put down your achievements to you. They'll make you feel stupid. They'll make you feel bad for even celebrating yourself. But externally to everybody else, they're going to be loving it. So let's say, I don't know, you do well in a job role, or you do well in some kind of career stuff. They're going to put you down for it to you. They're going to make you feel bad for being proud or grateful for what you've achieved. They'll do that to you. And then to everybody else, they'll celebrate it, yeah? They're going to be on Facebook saying how proud they are, how lovely they are, how amazed they are by what you've achieved, while still putting you down in the background. And again, this is and by the way, let's take that a step further. If you ever tried to call it out, if you ever tried to call out what they went and did on social media, or said, hang on a minute, you're not like that to my, then it'll be you. It'll be you that's labeled as being crazy. It'll be you will be labeled as being out of order, and like, why can't you just be nice and all that sort of stuff. So the jealousy is a strong one, okay? Kind of linked to that, we'll go to this one next, is they will be hypercritical. I am going to do so. I'll do that question in a minute. How should I go about telling my dad I need to cut ties? Well, by the way, let's do that first. How should I tell my dad? How should I go about telling my dad I need to cut ties? I think you should do it in whatever way feels best for you. By the way, I don't think you have to say anything. You can do what you need to do in the situation. Remember, this isn't like, you're not righting your own wrong. You're not trying to put something right that was bad that you did. Yeah, you're literally putting yourself first, and you're doing what is right, and what you can do to be able to hold on to your sanity and have any chance at having some good, decent well-being in your life. So I think you should do what you need to do. And don't let any outside influences, don't let anybody come in that's had a parent that's tried their best, but, got it wrong sometimes, come in and tell you what you should be thinking and feeling. Don't let anybody come in with those societal pressures of, but it is your mum, it is your dad. I don't give a shit, about that. I know I recognize what you're experiencing when it comes to a toxic parent. So you do what you need to do, what's right for you. My mum told me she did not want to celebrate my accomplishments so my ego would not get inflated. Yeah, what she means, what if your mum said to you she didn't want to celebrate that and make your ego inflate, what she actually meant is I don't want to celebrate that and make my own ego deflate. That's what she's talking about. And, you know, I see that all the time. And that links to this other point. So the toxic parent is going to be hyper critical of you and everything that you do. Yeah. They're always going to be picking out those little bits. When you do mess up, when you do get things wrong, they are going to be all over it. I told you so. I told you this about you. And so you're going to grow up being hyper self-critical of yourself. So if you're in your adulthood, right, and you're always overly critical about who you are, what you look like, that might even be in your parents' voice when you reach your adulthood because of how critical they were of you when you were a child. Now, we can criticize people, right? We can, you know, children should learn and know and understand when they get things wrong. But we are talking about a parent who is so critical of everything all of the time. Yeah. The impact that has on you in the long run, it's going to be incredible and hard to deal with. This is a big one. So the toxic parent will never allow a child to have any of their feelings, right? So you will have been forced and told, actively told, but a lot of it would have been almost like subliminally and subconsciously making sure that you don't express your emotions. When you were a child, their emotions were at the center of the household. Your toxic parents' emotions were all that mattered in the house. And so if you brought your own emotions, that was a problem. They got in the way. So they would have been pushed down and suppressed, and you would have been made to feel bad for those emotions. That's why in your adulthood, by the way, you spend all your time apologizing. If you show any big emotion, happy, sad, joyful, lonely, any of them, if you show any emotion in your adulthood, you almost instantaneously apologize for them. Yeah. Because you grew up in an environment where to express your emotions was to go against what was supposed to happen. You feel the very act of allowing an emotion to come through and come out of you, yeah, is taking up too much space already. Yeah. So you learn to make sure that everybody else is okay. You sort everything all of the time, completely abandoning yourself, because that was the only way that you fitted in and survived in the toxic system that your toxic parent created. It's really important to understand that, particularly when we're thinking about how we're going to heal and looking at how to heal from these journeys, right? We have to understand the impact that this would have had on you when you were a child. Yeah. And so you would have learned, you would have become an expert at dealing with other people's emotions, an absolute expert at reading even those subtleties. That hypervigilance would have been huge in you, yeah? Because your parents' emotions, emotional needs were at the center of the household, and it was absolutely vital that you abandon yourself to be able to fit and stay in that system. Yes, your inner child is the work that I actually do. I have a program called Inner You that you can check out. It's all linked in my bio and stuff like that. I take you on a journey really to become your inner child's champion. They believe because they moved past my pain, I should have to. Well, exactly. Actually, and it's probably even more sinister than that. They believed that your pain was a problem that was clouding their needs being met, their own deep emotional pain, which is what they're normally reacting to. Your pain took up too much space and got in the way. And of course, so as a result, as an adult, you feel your emotional struggle is taking up space. So you don't present it. You're okay all of the time. To everybody that you love, you're always okay. Yeah. I've talked about the next one a lot, right? Toxic parents see their children as an extension of themselves. So there's like this enmeshment going on where you are just there to serve them and their needs. Remember, they are the center of the universe. And what they will likely do is that will start off when you're a child as like, You know, like that may look like smothering you all of the time and expecting you to be able to do all of these difficult things. But what they want when you move into adulthood, yeah, they want to be the center of the universe. So what they tend to do is like make themselves the victim all of the time. Yeah. So in any circumstances that you experience, the toxic parent is only ever talking about the horrible impact it had on them and how hard it was for them and how horrible it was for them. And so when you were a child and you made mistakes or difficult things happened, or, you know, you did things that, you know, you wish that you didn't, all of those things that normal children go through, if you have a toxic parent, yeah, then they would have only ever talked about the impact of them, the impact that this had on them, yeah, and how horrible and how hard it was for them. They're going to remind you of that all of the time, yeah. Throughout your teenage years and your adulthood, they're going to be reminding you of how hard it was for them, yeah, how much they went through to be able to raise you and how hard it was for them, yeah. And so, by the way, that will show up when they're there, when you're there, but it will also show up, when the parents aren't there as well, right? And you'll be worried, oh my God, how's this going to affect my parent? How's this going to impact my mum and my dad, or whoever it is, that whichever parent it is for you? How do you know if you are now a toxic parent? Let me tell you this. If you lay in bed at night wondering, am I a toxic parent? If you mess up with your children and you get it wrong, regularly even, because I think that's parenthood, and you spend a lot of time thinking, oh my God, am I becoming this version? Am I horrible? Then you end what we're talking about. Because the toxic parent I'm talking about never lays in bed wondering about what problems they caused. Yeah. They never at any point do they even reflect on the fact that they might be getting it wrong or be a toxic parent. It's only ever anybody else's fault. So there's a very simple answer. If you're worried you might be a toxic parent, you ain't one. You ain't one. A lot of people talk about the guilt of cutting a toxic parent, yeah. A lot of people talk about when they, you know, if they've had to cut a toxic parent out of their life, the guilt that they experience of that and how do they deal with that. Well, you need to recognize that when you were a child, if you have a toxic parent, then guilt was a big player in your life, because they would have made you feel guilty for everything. Yeah. It would have been weaponized against you all of the time. Yeah. And so there would have been occasions when your toxic parent, right, would have done nice things for you. So they're horrible all of the time. And then out of the blue, you'd be like, wow, they've done this really nice, amazing thing for you. But it's only ever done to weaponize against you. I did this for you, and look, this is how you act. I've bought this really nice thing for you, and now you're showing up in that way. And so it was only ever done to hold against you and to weaponize against you. And so as a child, it's important to make sure that you reflect when you're an adult on what that would have looked like for you as a child, as a young child, without your rational brain, without an understanding of this stuff. How often you would have been thinking, I'm so bad for doing this. I'm so bad for, why did I mess up again? Look at the impact that it's had on my mum or my dad, whoever the parent was. Yeah. Constantly questioning yourself all of the time and shaming yourself for being so horrible. Yeah. Because it was always weaponized against you. Good things were only ever done to you to be weaponized against you. What else does that mean in your adulthood? It means you don't trust people who do good things for you. So when people do good things for you, it feels like too much pressure. Somebody's being nice to me. This is too much pressure, because what's happened in your life when somebody's done something nice to you when you were a child, it was very, very quickly weaponized against you. So somebody does something nice for you out of the goodness of their heart when you're in your adulthood, right? It comes with so much pressure. You feel overwhelmed by it. I'm going to mess this up. Why? Because when you were a kid, nobody did nothing nice for you out of the goodness of their heart. They did it so that they could weaponize it against you. So your experience in your adulthood makes perfect sense when you see that in its entirety, when you see that experience properly, yeah. I've talked about this already, right? And I always say the toxic parent, at the core, what they're searching for is to have themselves at the center of the universe, yeah? their emotions, their needs have to be met, and they will do whatever they can to make sure that they are met. That means that your emotions, your feelings, were always second, if at all. Yeah. And so you grow up hating yourself for even having any feelings, hating yourself for even having any needs, right? Because as a child, all you're doing is craving the attachment of your parent, right? And if all that your parent cares about is making sure that they are the center of the universe, then your battle as a child would have been against yourself and your own needs, right? Anytime you did anything or put anything forward that was about trying to get your needs met, right? That was about trying to put you first and put yourself forward, right? It would have taken away exactly what you were searching for and craving for naturally, which is that attachment to your parents. Yeah. So you grow up becoming somebody who is a chronic people pleaser, almost completely incapable of saying no. Yeah. You're somebody who doesn't know how to have your needs met, who feels selfish for even having any needs at all. Yeah. If you ever try and communicate how you're feeling, yeah, you'll say things like, I don't want attention for this. I'm not looking for sympathy, or I don't want a pity party when I say that, but here's how I feel. You see what's happening there, yeah? You're scared to even put your needs forward. And this is why healing is not like becoming this like loving, amazing person who doesn't, who's not affected by anybody else. Like, that's not what we're trying to do here. Healing is about standing in my power, being able to love people that I care about, right? Being able to have compassion for everybody, yes, and all of those things. And being able to stand in front of people and say, this is who I am and this is my needs, right? And I'm comfortable with them. I'm comfortable with them, yeah? And you don't get to dictate, you don't get to make me feel bad for having my needs. Because if you grew up in that environment where your emotional needs were second at best, yeah, if put forward at all, yeah, then this is what the healing work that you have to do. Yeah. A kind of linked to that last one as well. Toxic parents are complete attention seekers. Yeah. So they want all of your attention. This is why, yeah, particularly if you're a highly sensitive person who had a toxic parent, that highly sensitiveness in you, your high sensitivity would have been easily groomed and manipulated into hypervigilance, yeah? Because you're a child and you naturally seek, as every child has to, attachment to your parents or primary caregivers, yeah? You naturally seek that. And if the only way that you can get their attention, the only way is when you compulsively meet their needs, that's the only time you have a chance of getting their attention, yeah? Then you are going to become hypervigilant. Yeah, you're going to be very in tune with people and their facial expressions, knowing, that even subtle change in the way that they show up is going to have a huge impact on you, and making sure that you can see that so that you can change and adapt and abandon yourself. And you'll see yourself doing that in adult social situations. Yeah, you'll be in adult social situations, you'll be fucking hyper tuned into everybody else, constantly assessing yourself and changing yourself and adapting to make sure that you fit into everybody else's needs. That's not how life is supposed to be, right? And that is a reaction to the toxic experience that you've had when you were a child. Yeah. Here's another big one, and I'm going to come to the chat. I've got a couple more of these that I want to get through. Here's a big one. One of the prime ways that a toxic person in general will try and punish you and try and manipulate and control you is by the withholding of love, the removal of love. So that's going to look like the silent treatment initially, nearly always, yeah, where they give you absolutely nothing, yeah. And remember, if you're the child of this toxic person, yeah, you're desperately, you're panicking, you're trying to get their attention, their attachment, you're trying to figure out what you've done wrong. And that silence that they leave you with, yeah, is a strong form of abuse. But the other ways that they're going to do it, subtle looks, they know what they're doing. Remember that hypervigilance that you've developed? They're in on that. They know what's going on. The little look that they'll give you, the subtle way that they'll change the way that they'll say something to you, yeah? And this is what true gaslighting, this is when true gaslighting happens. When they're saying, but I didn't say your name. And I'm not upset. Do I look like I'm upset? And they're keeping a smile on their face, and externally they're doing all that. But as a child, you're so confused. Why am I picking up? Why does this feel like you're being horrible to me? Yeah. So I think you want to have a good look at yourself here, don't you? And this is what they're doing. Yeah. Incredibly highly manipulative form of abuse. Yeah. Has a terrible impact on you, makes you question yourself all of the time. You're going to reach adulthood naturally, yeah? Not able to put your needs forward, yeah? Getting yourself in relationships where you don't put your needs first. You're just working out what you need to be, and you don't know, like, whether what you're picking up on is right. You're always guessing what's right, yeah? Yeah, right. Okay, let me read some. I was just reading a couple of the things in the chat there. Sorry. A classic one, yeah. For a toxic parent. Classic one here. Never ever seeing their side in a story, right? I think as parents, all parents are going to make mistakes. They're always going to mess up. They know that they can evaluate, they can revisit, they can go back and say, listen, I'm sorry, man. I mean, I messed up. This was bad, I didn't show, I wasn't very nice then. All of that stuff teaches children loads of stuff, teaches the ability to be able to, apologize, that we all make mistakes and all that stuff. The toxic parent's never doing that. The toxic parent is never, ever, from when you're a kid, right up into your adulthood. They are literally going to be like, no, that never. And it will make you think you're crazy, because it could have happened yesterday, right? And they could have said or done something. It could be something they've said in a text message, and you've got it there in black and white in front of them, yeah? And still they'll be like, nope, that didn't happen. And by the way, you can try and press them and say, look, but what about this? And you did this and you showed up like that. And you know what they'll do in the end? If you keep calling out this toxic person's bullshit, keep calling out, in the end they'll start going, I can't deal with this. This is what you do to me. They'll go straight there because they will, whatever it takes to not have to look. Yeah. Whatever it takes to not have to reflect on their own fucking darkness. That's what it is. Yeah. And they'll do anything, and they'll ship shape and change and become different versions of themselves. Whatever it takes to not have to do that. Yeah. And then finally, is the lack of boundaries. So when you were a child, they would have been, in today's world, what they'll be doing is taking the phones off of, teenagers that are like 14, 15 and going through all of the whole phone. When you were a child, rifling through your room, never knocking on the doors to come in, going and having conversations with your friends, all of this stuff, no boundaries whatsoever, because what you fucking need to know and all of that sort of stuff. Is way more important than anything else. Yeah. So you'll be frightened of laying boundaries. It's not just a case of lay better boundaries when you reach your adulthood. You're frightened of laying boundaries because you're so enmeshed in the environment that you grew up with, right? You didn't know that you get your own personal space, that you get to be the beholder. You have some autonomy over what you do with your experiences and your feelings and all of that. No, because you grew up in an environment that didn't allow you to do that. Somebody said there, my mum would just barge in. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, I'm going to do some questions now. Somebody says here, they call us weirdos just because we are sensitive. They say they know us best. Oh, yeah. Classic toxic parent line. I know you better than anyone. And as a child, you're like, shit, man, and they're saying that I'm like this, and I know that you are, these toxic parents, if they'll tell girls, I know what you're thinking in that horrible little mind of yours, or they'll say the same, to young kids will get told this, I know you better than anyone. I know what you're thinking, or you said this. You'd be like, I didn't say that. And they'd be like, but I know exactly what you meant. I know you can't get away with nothing. Yeah. It's manipulation. It's all control. They know exactly what they are doing. Yeah. Let's have a look. Wow, my dad made us get a DNA test because he said I was too ugly to be his. It's awful. Awful experience. How do you overcome the feeling of sadness after going no contact? Listen, I don't think you do overcome the feeling of sadness if you've had to go no contact. You don't overcome. You don't reach a, some people will reach a stage, by the way, where they get to a place and it becomes very, very freeing. And I think that's great, yeah. But don't push yourself, yeah. You didn't ask for this. You're having to grieve a load of, living grief and all of that stuff. Like, your sadness is appropriate. And you have to find ways to learn to live with that. And this is the thing, if somebody's cut their parent, like in most cases, in a lot of cases, it's like the lesser of two evils. And it's like, I'm doing this because it gives me a chance, a bit more of a chance than fucking staying in it. And that's what we're talking about here. And that's why it's such a difficult and needed conversation. The weirdest thing is I have no feelings toward my parents, like they're strangers to me. Look, that would make sense, by the way, if they're like that. I've got no contact with my dad, 4 years strong. Please tell me how to deal with anger. I don't know how to handle this emotion. Anger's a bit of one because anger's like not a problem. Like, it's not a bad thing in and of itself. We're supposed to feel angry. It motivates us to do stuff and all that kind of thing. But finding healthy ways to express it is really, really important. I'm doing a free breath work online, right? If you sign up to it, you get access to the recording. Breath work in the way that I do it is one of the best ways to release emotions. And you don't have to do anything other than just do this breathing pattern. I went no contact with my mum, and my eldest brother thinks I'm pathetic and I need to drop it. When you stare toxicity in the face, you will become the black sheep automatically because you are exposing the toxicity within the system. So anybody else within that system, if they are not yet able or willing to look at the toxicity that is happening and that you are experiencing, they will black sheep you so that they don't have to expose the toxicity to themselves. It's a self-protection thing for them as well, yeah? But it's because you're calling it out and seeing it for what it is. So it's very common. It hurts that my mum would rather miss out on my life than grow and be better. She supports my abuser. And this is the hard, part of the healing from a sort of toxic, narcissistic, abusive parent, whatever it is that you've had. The horrible thing is that part of healing is letting go of the idea that they could ever be anything close to what a parent's supposed to be. Now that's hard because it's not what people want to hear, but it's the truth. They don't care how they treat people. Look, if you've never able to express emotions and you're still struggling with it, please come and do my breathwork. It's free. It's on the 31st of May. We do a breathing pattern and it almost certainly will help you release emotions. Just trust me on it. Yeah, look, that's my dog going crazy now. When my dad beat me up, my mum and gran said it was my fault and I had to go to school with a black eye. That's what you have to deal with, is the second part of it as well, right? Which is just horrendous. I just went no contact with my mum and I was going to write her a letter to tell her I was going no contact. Yeah, I think you should do that. I think that's a really good way of doing it. What you have to be clear is that if you are going to do that, then the likelihood of getting a response, you can't do it with the hope that you're going to get the response, yeah? Because you more than likely won't. That's horrible, yeah? But you probably will get a response, but it's going to be fucking filled with all of this bamboozling crap that brings up past shit and it's going to be horrific. So you have to be aware of that, but that doesn't mean that you don't get to say what you think and feel. That's important. I need an exorcism of negative emotions. That's exactly what breathwork is like, by the way. How long have we been going? I'll do about 5 more minutes. Oh, you just signed up? Good. See you there. My mum admits she was strict, but won't admit she physically and mentally abused us. She's duct taped. This is another thing, yeah. The toxic parent will always be like, yeah, you know, I just think the world needs to be a bit stricter. It was better back in the day when people were a little bit more firm with kids. The problem with kids this day is they've got it too easy and all of that stuff. And whether you think all of that's true or not, some people will and some people won't, right? That's a whole nother conversation. But the toxic parent will use that stuff, yeah, to like wrap up their horribleness and their abusiveness. I'm just firm because I love them and it's bullshit, by the way. No, I don't work one-to-one, but I've got a 6-week online program that I do live sessions with. That starts on the 5th of June. Once a week on a Thursday, we do a live session. It's online. There's breath work at the end of it. If you go on the link in my bio, you'll see loads of information about it. You'll also see you can go and read reviews about it and stuff like that. You can try the free thing that we're going to do next week as well. The closest my mum has ever gotten to an apology is telling me she won't until I do. Oh, by the way, the toxic parent will spend a lot of time talking about how much work they've had to do. I've had to do so much work on myself. I've had to do so much healing on myself to heal what I went through when you were young. Yeah. And it's all about them. It's all about them. Yeah. It will always, and listen, the type of parent I'm talking about, they create these situations so that they get to be the victim at the center. So that, they'll always have the flying monkeys around them that are like, it's so hard for them and they believe every word that they say and think that they're just people who have had such hard, difficult times and been wronged by so many people. It's bullshit. And then if you call it out, the people around them are like, oh my God, how could you be like that? That's your mum or that's your dad. And that's why I do this stuff, yeah, to call it out, because most of society still would side with the parent without any knowledge of what's gone on. Yeah, without any knowledge of it, they'll side with the parent because that's the dysfunctional society that we live in that says you should love your parents no matter what. I think it's 82% of abuse happens by a family member. Yeah. And yet our main message in society is love your parents no matter what. Don't betray them no matter what. Yeah. People say it all the time. You only get one mum and dad. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Listen, we're not talking about parents who make mistakes. That's every parent, yeah? We're talking about parents who are consistently toxic throughout your whole life, yeah? And if somebody has had to cut ties, listen, I'm sure it happens for loads of different reasons. I get so much abuse for saying it. The people that I'm talking about, the audience that I'm talking about here, yeah, we're dealing with people who have reached the end of their sanity before they've done it to have their only chance. It's their only chance, yeah? And you don't only get one mum and dad. Or maybe you do, and that's why it's so fucking sad that people have to cut them out in this way sometimes. Yeah, because they don't have any other choice. Then they have to deal with this backlash from society that thinks just because it's your parent, for some reason, you need to be able to ignore the abuse, or you do the work, or maybe you should work towards gratitude. And actually, let's go here for a minute, because this toxic spirituality shit that's out there, a lot of toxic parents, by the way, are into that toxic spirituality. Yeah, they are emotionally abusing their kids and then sitting in the lotus position and burning incense in the evening. Do me a favor, yeah? And then they're going online and they're talking about forgiveness and, reconciliation and like letting go of abuse and not letting it affect you. It's BS, right? And they're everywhere. The toxic spirituality is everywhere. Another thing that I hear all of the time that I'm calling toxic spirituality, is like somehow if you're in an abusive relationship, so if you've got an abusive parent, yeah, it's somehow like, well, you just got a lack of boundaries, and you're choosing to stay in that situation. Fucking abuse is not that simple. It's way more complex than that. And again, it's bullshit that these people are talking it. And what they're actually doing is bypassing their own stuff, and they can't deal with the level of honesty in somebody that's able to come out and say, here's my true emotions. So they want to put your emotions back in a box because it's exposing how they haven't dealt with their own emotions. And it's everywhere online. Toxic spirituality is everywhere. My mum feels as though since she was able to forgive her abuser, I should let go of what she has done. She hasn't forgiven her abuser. She says she has because it's toxic spirituality. And what she's actually doing is taking out the abuse on you. So she hasn't forgiven it. And by the way, I can, like, you see this all the time with the toxic spirituality. Oh, you know, I used to be like that, but now I've just forgiven, right? And I've just let it all go. And now I'm able to love everyone, even the people that abused me. I'll, like, spin another one. Power to them if that's what they're doing. And I think if that's what they've been able to do in their life, great. Yeah, it's great. But it's a fucking red flag when they're pushing it on everybody else and they can't let you just have your experience without going, you need to forgive, you need to... I get people coming on my shit, you know, coming and posting comments on my stuff like, have you tried this? I'm like, have you tried not fucking commenting on stuff like that, if you think that, yeah. Because that's what you're dealing with. Do you think parents may forget what they did a lot of the time because they were in such a rage? No. I think they willfully forget. I think they pretend that it wasn't that bad. I actually think that they don't even reflect on it that much. I actually think they don't reflect on it that much. That's what I think. Yeah, masking, coping. Look, I think that, by the way, in my own life, I've done it, yeah? In my own sort of healing journey, I did the bypassing. I did the, like, trying to get everybody else to make sure they were all right because I was avoiding my own stuff. I also recognize that there's some really, really toxic people out there as well. But the toxic people that I'm talking about, they don't reflect. They don't reflect on it enough. Their only thought is how the world has wronged them all of the time. And this isn't like... I've been through periods in my life, and most people that are trying to go on a healing journey, most people that have been in any kind of abusive relationship, yeah, they go through that stage of feeling like the whole world's wronged them, but they're working through it. They're addressing themselves, they're reflecting, how can I change? A toxic person isn't doing that. It's like everybody else needs to change to sing my tune. They think they are perfect. You're definitely not alone. There's like, check out my Instagram stuff as well. Someone says here, my mum talks so much shit about me. What they have to do, when they start to realise that you've woken up a little bit and you're starting to distance yourself, they're going to start panicking, yeah? The toxic parents panicking and like, fucking hell, who are they talking to? What are they making me look like? What they care about the most is how you make them look. Yeah, so they're going to be panicking. They're going to be like planting the seeds of other people, and they won't necessarily always go around saying you're horrible and they've done this to me. They'll play more of the victim, like, you know, I've just done my best and I try so hard, and they just can't see it. They just pick out all of the bad points in me, and they fucking know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Oh, you've been my therapy with your Insta posts. Ah, good. Yeah, I'm glad they help. And this is another thing. I love therapy. I think everybody should do it. But there's a lot of therapists out there who think that when somebody comes in with a difficult relationship with their parent, their job as a therapist is to help them reconcile that relationship. And they need to do some work on themselves. I don't want to be too controversial. Do you have a relationship with your parents? I have a relationship with my mum. My dad died when I was 9. Was an alcoholic. Yeah, my boyfriend's mum blames liberal college. He's 41. Sorry, I can't keep up with these. Right, I'm going to do one more and then I'm going to shut down. Yeah, therapist once told you to parent yourself. So the journey, the Inner You program that I run 3 times a year, right? It's like pre-recorded breathwork exercises. it's pre-recorded reflective exercises that you do over the course of the 6 weeks. And then we come together once a week on a Thursday. We do a live session to discuss some of that work, and then we do some like trauma, emotional release, breath work that has a big impact on you. The free session of that is on the 31st of May. If you sign up to it, you'll get a link to the recording as well to try it, so you can try it for free. The 6 weeks is £99. That's it. There's no hidden costs. It's just £99. And I'll take you on a process of understanding who you are in the world today, why you show up in the world the way that you do. We'll then look at like getting your side of the street clean where you're at now. Then you look at your past relationships, and all of that work is so that when we get to around week 5, you feel safe enough to go and get your inner child, not only get them, comfort them, but to become their champion. And that's the work that we do over the course of the 6 weeks. It's all about rebuilding that relationship so that you can become your inner child's champion, reparent yourself. You get to be the one who holds that part of you close, you know? Are you asking me if I accept her for being human, accepting the fact that she has flaws? My mum, I do, yep. By the way, I also accept that abusive people have flaws and are human beings, but they're also abusive. And when they're abusive, there ain't no excuse for that. And you don't have to put up with abuse just because someone's a human being and they're like it because of some sort of compassionate reason. Yes, we can have compassionate, and someone somewhere in the world should maybe be doing something to try and change them. I don't think most of them will ever change, but somebody should be doing it to try and do that. But it ain't the job of the person stuck in the abusive relationship. No way. I don't care what the fucking relationship is. That's what I believe, by the way. Because I get a lot of people all the time like jumping on and saying to me, you know, your parents did their best, the parents did their best, you know, have you not thought about the fact that they might have been through their own trauma? What? Yeah, I have. And it doesn't mean that abuse is okay. Remotely. Do you think you can ever get over a horrible upbringing? I don't think you can ever get over a horrible upbringing. I think it's too late to go back and relive your childhood. But here's what I do believe. I do believe that you can find a way to live a pretty meaningful, amazing life in spite of what you went through. It's not easy. Life will always have moments when it feels overwhelming and like you're not going to be able to deal with it. But I absolutely believe that with the right systems in place, the right way of self-reflecting, that you can have an amazing life. And I don't think you should have to get over anything. I think you can find ways to live in spite of it. Not everyone can recognize they are being abusive. Okay, and I don't care. If you are, let me say this to that comment. If you're somebody that's trapped in an abusive relationship, and your abuser can't recognize that they're being abusive, get as far away from them as you possibly can. It's not your job to help them mend the fact that they're abusive. That's what I think. And particularly children and adult children are fucking never responsible. I don't care if the abuser doesn't know they're abusive. Right, I'm going to shut this down now. This has been really, really good. I'm going to do more I'm going to come and do them on TikTok. This has been more fun here than it was on Instagram. It's not fair to get people to see silver linings when they've been in an abusive relationship. No, it isn't. So yeah.